when you have a great job in any industry, you can make a small mistake and it becomes, a fire. If you have a mediocre or an irrelevant job, you can make a huge mistake and nobody cares. Aaron Boone for the Yankees, we pick him apart for a seventh-inning decision. Nobody breaks down or discusses the Tampa Bay Rays' egregiously bad base running error in the ninth inning, right? And so I want to start the show with that, is that the NFL is the biggest sport in America, and it's not really close. We watch it, we gamble on it, we talk about it, shows like this obsess over it. And the two biggest brands in the NFL to me are the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. I'm sorry, but the Pittsburgh Steelers were in the 70s, but their standard now is, hey, we brag about never being under 500. I don't think you can deny the Cowboys win a lot and the Packers win every year, right? That's just what they do. And they have controversial quarterbacks. They have massive brands. We would never talk about Green Bay, Wisconsin, if not for the Packers. Massive, massive brand. Same with the Cowboys. And there's one guy that's coached both, Mike McCarthy. And if you make little mistakes with a big brand, Cowboys, Packers, they get blown out. So whenever, and we don't like to blame the quarterbacks for losses. We blame Sean McDermott, John Harbaugh. We blame Andy Reid in Philadelphia, never Donovan McNabb. We tend to blame the coaches, not the quarterback. We wear the quarterback's jerseys. We have him on our fantasy team, so he's good to us. We bet on our quarterback, not on our coach necessarily. So I was thinking about Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys. Is he the best coach in the NFL that is considered a mediocre to a bad coach? And so think about this. In Green Bay, he had an 8-year stretch, won a Super Bowl, 5 division titles, 7 of 8 years. This is when the NFC was better than the AFC. 7 of 8 years, double-digit wins. In Dallas, 4 seasons, 12 wins, 3 straight years. He's had a top 5 scoring offense 10 times with multiple quarterbacks. The number 1 offense in the NFL 4 times, at one of them with Dak. He's never had a Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Lamar. One of them with Dak. Dak Prescott, number 1 offense in the league. And he's succeeded at a high level with 3 different quarterbacks. Old, feisty, ad-libber, gunslinger, hard-to-coach Brett Favre. Prickly, young, aloof, at times arrogant Aaron Rodgers, who wants to do things his own way. And the highly coachable, but kind of limited Dak Prescott. Hell, he went like 4-1 with Cooper Rush. 3 different quarterbacks, 3 different personalities. He's won with all of them. Well, Colin, he's never won the big game. No, he won the big game. The only time Aaron Rodgers has ever won the big game in his career was with Mike McCarthy. He's won the big game. Well, he just doesn't win enough playoff games. 11. That's as many as Bill Parcells. Well, he's a 500 playoff coach. Oh, that's interesting. If you don't have Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, that's what all the great coaches' playoff records are. Mike McCarthy's 11-11. John Harbaugh, 12-10. Mike Holmgren, great coach, 13-11. Sean Payton, 9-8. Winningest coach ever, Don Shula with Dan Marino, 19-17. Pete Carroll, 500. Ditka, 500. Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, under 500. If you don't have Brady or Mahomes, that is what your playoff record looks like. If you're a great coach. So McCarthy inherited the old Brett Favre, who, as you know, was already talking retirement. McCarthy went 13-3 with him. He was feisty. He didn't want to make any changes. He was stubborn and gifted. And McCarthy had a great year with him. And then there's Aaron, who can be aloof and arrogant and prickly and difficult. His best years and a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy. Dak, we don't consider Dak great. That's interesting. He's actually, with very few weapons now that he's paid, had a number 1 offense in the league. So it just is interesting. We're going to blame McCarthy and not Dak. The knock even the knock on Mike McCarthy, even the criticism of him, he's in an elite class. The biggest knock on him is I don't like him late game situations. Do you realize that was the only real criticism of the best coach in football, Andy Reid, his entire time in Philadelphia? He's in a very unique elite class, but he's never had Brady and he's never had Mahomes. And when that's the case, Aaron and Favre aren't as good as those guys. I'd argue the more you inspect it, it's not necessarily close. So just get ready. He'll be on the hot seat. And we're not going to blame Dak because Dak's going to have a new contract. It's going to be almost $60 million a year. You're trapped with Dak, and it's much easier for fans to blame a coach who you can fire than a quarterback you're stuck with. But I would argue Mike McCarthy is the best coach in the league that's considered a mediocre to bad coach. I consider him a B-plus coach. I consider Mike Tomlin a B-plus coach. I think if you inspect Pete Carroll, he's a B-plus coach. Those are good grades, mostly what I got in college and high school. So Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers have opened camp. And Jim Harbaugh is a complete breath of fresh air. So the Chargers before Harbaugh never really paid their coach big boy money. But the Chargers didn't just need a coach. If I told you, and I didn't give you the team, but I said in the last 25 years, there's been this one NFL franchise. They're almost always really good at quarterback. I mean, really good. Yeah, they've had a lot of Hall of Famers. Like some guys, they don't even draft them and they find them. Antonio Gates. They've had the best running back in the league at any one time, a top 5 to 7 quarterback at any one time, the best receiving group at any one time, the best linebacker at any one time, a Bosa off the edge. But this team, I mean, they blow leads like nobody's business. Nobody loses more games they should win than this team. That team would be the Chargers. They've had the same owner and the Spanos family. Complain all you want, but pretty solid ownership. Just stay out of the limelight. I mean, it's not like Dan Snyder, the Bidwells. I mean, the Maras now are getting crushed in New York. It's the Chargers. The Chargers didn't need a coach. They needed this coach. And Jim was at the podium yesterday. And here's my prediction on what it'll look like. Just like Michigan. Year one, Harbaugh arrives at Michigan. Almost no NFL players. And he wins 10 games. Massively overachieves. Rising expectations. And a couple years later, he actually pulls back and only wins 8 games. And there's a divide in the room. Is he too intense for college football? Taking recruiting trips to Rome, staying at a kid's house. He will divide people. So the Chargers, he will overachieve this year. Don't be shocked if they win 11 games, maybe 12. Raiders are 2 wins. Broncos could be 2 wins. Chargers always seem to split, don't they, or play the Chiefs well? They'll win 11 or 12 games. He'll be intense, and he'll by year 2 and 3, if he doesn't have a Super Bowl, he'll divide people. But what he will create is exactly what this franchise, more than any in the league, needs. Toughness, grit, accountability, a plan. They've had talent forever. Dan Fouts, Winslow, John Jefferson, Wes Chandler, Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, Antonio Gates. And this team's had talent forever. But toughness, grit, accountability, vision. Marty Schottenheimer a few years. That's it. So to me, the right coach at the right time, they will massively overachieve in year one. But because they're in a division and a conference with Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen and C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow, they may not win a Super Bowl. And by year 2 and 3, I don't know. You know, he should have stayed at Michigan. He may be too intense for the new NFL. Players have more power now. All of it will be just like at Michigan, absolute nonsense. And I can't wait for Jim Harbaugh.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.